communities of true fans, not those vanity numbers that you're hearing about, but real fans that support you, buy from you, refer to you, and talk about you, which is the same thing, isn't it, Paul?
It can be.
Can
It can
be
be. It isn't
talking and
always.
referring.
That's part of the big thing, right? That's what we love to talk about is when is it, when is it not, all that kind of stuff. But I just love, I haven't met Warren before today, but I love what we're going to explore today. The idea, if you had told me that someone had uh this thing going on, I would have been like, really? You go ahead, lead it in. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, so how do you take an obscure concept like an octopus and turn it into a movement of about 400,000 fans in a community? This is what we're going to be talking about today. And we're inviting you in. If you want to build your own community, if you want to learn how to build fans like Warren has, this is the place for you. Viralconnectivity.com/live. Go there. Right below our video, there is a button. Click that button and you're going to join us in the conversation where we're talking about how to build fans, how to build an audience, how to build a community that's really, really passionate and excited about what you're doing. And why I love talking to you, Warren, why the concept is so interesting is because most people, when they think about starting a business, starting a community, starting an idea, it's usually, well, what will people buy, right? Like, let me sell courses or fans or something tangible that people actually can stand behind. But you went out there and you created a movement around an octopus. So let's talk about that for a second because that is fantastic,
It is awesome.
right? So hey, Warren.
Hey, what's going on?
Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. So Warren and I, we met at what was that opportunity thon thingy, right?
Yeah, it was an event where it was essentially live aid for entrepreneurs in the sense where we were giving them information that they could use to pivot their businesses given the current, pandemic. So I was talking about, how you build an engaged following, and then I think proceeds were going to benefit my nonprofit, which is Octonation, the largest Octopus fan club.
So how okay, so when you and I connected, because I came right after your talk, and I kind of just grabbed I just caught like the end of your presentation, which was, guys, was fantastic. I don't even know if they can watch it, but you were talking about engagement, community, fans, how to bring people together, and I was like, okay, I got to talk to this guy. So so then I went and looked you up, right? You shared a link to Octonation, and I'm gonna find it and share it, and I was like, how did you do that? How did you even become, fascinated with the idea of an octopus and
Yeah.
made that a movement? So share with everybody like what you told me. How did that even happen?
Well, I've always been fascinated with the deep sea. I remember, and I was telling you when we spoke on the phone that as a kid, I was obsessed with aliens. So like when I was like 5 or 6 years old, I remember, I wanted alien stickers, posters. That was, if I made a good grade in school, I'd be like, just buy me an alien eraser, or just, So that was kind of how you could motivate me as a kid to do something, is tell me that you're going to buy me something alien. And then I remember going to the aquarium when I was 7 and I saw an octopus there, and I asked the aquarist, all these questions. I was curious, and I was like, well, how does it age? How can you do this? How does it do this? And she was like, well, science hasn't really figured it out yet about this creature. And I was like, what do you mean science hasn't figured it out? And I was like, it's probably because they're aliens. And so I think I made that connection in my head, and then I just kind of took that connection and started doing crazy amounts of research. Like I'd go to the library and I'd check out books, and I learned that there were multiple species. There wasn't just the one that we all pretty much know what it looks like. It's that one with 8 arms, but there's over 300 different species, and they live in every single ocean. They're along every single coastline, and depending on where in the ocean they live, they have this unique set of skills that allows them to thrive in that environment. And they've gotten those skills over hundreds of millions of years of evolution, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't really know what to do with it, right? When we're passionate about something, we're just kind of like, cool, like, who do we talk to? Because I would, try to tell my mom, like, look at this octopus. And she'd be like, I love you, honey, but
I don't care.
yeah. It's not that she didn't care. It's just like, she was just like, I'm not, not as interested as you are in it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really know what to do with it. But like I was telling you, in 2011, my mom, unfortunately, she passed away of breast cancer. And
Oh.
so I ended up in a weird situation where I was working in real estate. I wasn't really happy. I didn't really know what was next for me. And I got it in my head that I wanted to move to New York and intern for a celebrity fashion photographer. It was like one of those, weird things that I just got up. I was like, you know what? I want to move to New York. And, how could I move to New York, and, what could I essentially do? And I was like, well, I was like, I could, work, as an intern for a celebrity fashion photographer. And I was like, well, how do I even do that? And so I went to Barnes and Noble, and I've always been a strategy sort of person where I was like, okay, I need to come up with something so that I know that I won't fail. Got out all these fashion magazines, and I used Instagram, and I started adding them on Instagram and then reaching out to them via DM and letting them know that I could help them as an intern. And these are all the different things that I could do for them. I could
Okay,
make
wait,
sure
wait, wait.
that,
This is super important, right?
yeah,
Because a lot of people, they're going like, ooh, I want to be XYZ, but they never take that place and they never actually reach out and say something.
yeah.
So, first of all, kudos on taking that first step because that's amazing. And then, second, a lot of people also think that they're too famous for me, right? They're not going to respond. What was going on through your mind when you were like messaging all these people?
I think what I've learned kind of um, through experience of is people don't really mind you reaching out as long as you have done the research on them, and that when you talk to them, like they understand that you're talking from a place of, I know about you, I've researched you, I know I feel like I know what's next for you through you know studying kind of like what you're doing or what you need. So when I
Right.
was reaching out to these people, I never felt like I was wasting their time or reaching out in the way of like a fan would reach out to them. I said, these are very practical things that I'm aware that you need, and that I could give you, and that I could make your life easier, and I wouldn't get in your way. And so the upside of this would be you'd have me as an intern, and I'd be doing all of these things. Like the list was pretty big, because I was coming from a place of imagine, and then it's just like you could have all of these things, because what celebrity fashion photographers, what I felt like they didn't really realize in that time was that they should be building their social media brand alongside of the celebrities that they're photographing.
Right.
Um, on social media, and a lot of them, they were just like, I don't really want to get involved. I don't know if it's for me. This was back in like 2013, where it was like social media, we thought maybe it might be a fad, or like it wasn't going to go anywhere, or people were going to get over it. And so after 2 months of doing that, I had one reach out to me. His name was Chung Kai Shi, and he said, do you live here? And I was like, no. And I was like, but I could fly there and be there next week. And so he gave me a chance. And I think after about 3 months or so of working with him, I became his studio manager.
Oh, wow.
And so I went from, kind of figuring out where the gaps were and what he was doing, and then just really asserting myself as, people need to go through me to talk to you. There's none of this, people talk to you now, because there needs to be a barrier there. Because he was a very humble guy. He would say yes to a lot of things. And I was like, yeah, I would say yes too, but for X, Y, Z.
Wow.
And so I just understood the value of him. And so I managed his strategic partnerships with brands like J. Crew, Calvin Klein, Todd Snyder, Uniqlo, Mont Blanc. And I learned very quickly while in these rooms what influencer marketing was. We were going through a phase where it was going from celebrities were who we were paying attention to where these micro influencers with communities. There were a lot of brands that were starting to test the waters with pouring money or doing campaigns with micro influencers. And that was just unprecedented, because you would never work with somebody who wasn't managed before, because you would want to make sure that if you did something with them, that there was, you could like sue the management company, or you could like, there was all these liabilities and things in place that you could make sure there was insurance on, but we were deciding to work with these influencers who we didn't know their background. We didn't know what they really stood for. And so we were taking chances on a lot of individuals. And I remember, and this is where I was talking to you on the phone one day, where I was sitting in a room and it was this big, meeting, and they were talking about influencer marketing. And I thought, why am I not doing this with something that I'm passionate about? I mean, all of these people are doing are essentially making cloth relevant through storytelling, through influencers, through strategic collaborations, there are a lot of things. I was like, I could take what they're doing and do this on Instagram. and create this community through strategic collaborations, through messaging, through storytelling, through providing programming to my community or my audience that was worthy of their attention on a given basis. And so I started up Octonation on Instagram, which was going to be the largest Octopus fan club. I could finally marry my love for the octopus with something that I had the skill set in, which was almost like being a PR agent for this animal.
Right,
and
totally.
storytelling in a way that would make this animal seem culturally relevant, fun, informative, based on who I had talked about it or how I interviewed. I could change the perception of this animal in a really, really cool way. Because I learned that a lot of people were frightened of this animal. There was this irrational fear that a lot of parents had based on Hollywood movies. And I thought, no. And I was like, we're going to change the story, and we can change it based on who we associate the animal with, how we tell these stories, how exciting we make it, how vibrant we make the colors look in the videos, how what words we use to describe them, like beautiful, magnificent, ancient. And started doing a lot of the things that I learned, like I said, in that fashion space, but moved it over to this nonprofit side, which was, you know, what I founded, which was Octonation, the largest Octopus fan club. So there's a lot of little lessons in there, but that's kind of the story.
Which I
That's
love.
awesome.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Warren, since most of us don't understand exactly the things that you said, I'm going to ask the question based on that. So like, how has you doing all of this allowed you to benefit? Like, what other structures besides you are there that you could connect with that actually helped you do something good for the octopus?
Yeah. So I have this methodology. It's called the 7 C's of building a fanatical community. And what you're referencing there is so collaboration. What community leaders have to really understand, or anybody that has a platform, is that the content creation does not fall on one person. It falls on what is going to keep the community coming in on a daily basis, what's deserving of their attention. What's deserving of their attention, and then also who else caters to that community that could co-create assets to serve both of our communities. So Octonation's mission is to inspire conservation of the ocean by teaching the world about octopuses. But I feel like every community needs a mission and a vision and core values to really solidify what that community is, what it means, what it represents, what it stands for, how people in the community should interface with each other. And so I partnered with people and also brands and organizations that had a mission that that kind of was in alignment with ours. So if you look at aquariums, you know, they have a lot of their missions are, you know, conservation of the ocean. So we did a lot of partnerships. I did Interview with an Octopus, which was a campaign where a lot of my community said, I can't afford to go to the aquarium. My mom won't take me, or we can't afford it, or, you know, all these different things. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to bring the experience to you. I'm going to partner with an aquarium. I'm going to go inside the aquarium and provide this live stream experience where you can ask questions from the comfort of your home. And I'm going to play with the octopus and also talk to the person who takes care of it on a daily basis and create this almost like this interactive live stream experience. And so I did that. That became really popular. But all of my programming or my content campaigns or whatever you want to call it, the content that I give to my members on a daily basis is informed by what are the members really engaging with, what would keep them engaged on a daily basis, what do I see that they actually care for on a daily basis, and who else out there is providing this sort of information that I could partner with and co-create content with, that cares about what we're doing at Octonation, but also caters to a community that has an affinity for either the animal or just the ocean. And so who you choose to strategically collaborate with has to make sense to your community and the members you follow. And that's what I tell a lot of community leaders where I'm like, you know, they kind of interview who they're inspired by, but you really need to look at your community and say, who are you guys paying attention to right now? You know, who do you want access to that you feel like, you know, you don't have access to, or, you know, you really have to create that two-way dialogue where you're really tuned in with the wants and needs of them so that you can deliver on that. And I feel like we have that ability nowadays that a lot of TV executive producers and whatever, they didn't create that two-way dialogue. They were just kind of like, you know, the conductors of the show. Whereas right nowadays, you have to be a conduit. You have to be a channel through your community and create content that they want to see, because we have that ability now. So,
and a lot of people, Warren, a lot of entrepreneurs, the short grab would be build it as fast as you can and then sell merch, even if your mission was to raise money to help octopuses, right?
Yeah.
But you're like, you're playing 3D chess. Like you're not just doing, like you're really thinking about long-term collaboration relationships. How do you really grow benefits way beyond like, let's just try to make some money quick? And
yeah, and you can do it. I mean, there's plenty of entrepreneurs that could be listening to me right now, and they're just like, no, that's going to take too much time, and they're wired in a completely different way. I'm more, and I think this is the result of like, you know, I've worked with Facebook headquarters directly. I've taught page admins how to use Facebook's tools to build a more engaging community. And I like to think that they chose me for that position and to teach, because for me, it's always been about really building an engaged community, people that really understand why they're there. Like you really have to be deserving. And I feel like it's an honor to have nowadays, to have the attention of somebody, anybody is such a, it's like liquid gold. I don't know. It's this thing, because their attention could be anywhere. There's a decentralized attention graph, meaning whereas people were watching TV in the past, they literally could be watching and doing anything else other than doing what they're doing right now. And so knowing that, how are you creating programming or content that respects that attention to the like nth degree, to where you're just like, I completely, you know, want to keep your attention here. What would make this a win for you all? Not what do I want to show you? Because I've gotten into a lot of situations where I've let my ego get in the way, where I'm just like, I really like abstract art right now. I'm going to push abstract art down my community's throats. And then I did a survey, and they're like, that's the last thing that they wanted to see. So, you know, at some point you really have to look at the number, the data, and you have to say, they don't like this. I need to pull that program. Like I need to, like, as much as I like it, and as much as I like delivering it, it's not working for them. So, you know, get out of your own way and start, you know, producing content and programming that they want to see with people that they want to see it with.
And I just want to share like a few things. So first of all, what amazes me about what you're doing is, if we're looking at the community right now, so many people are getting right behind, like they're creating their own post with octopuses. So it's not just you coming in.
Look at that person's wall.
Right? Where it's not just you coming in and like always posting about octopuses. There's like other people who are sharing tons of stuff, right?
Yeah. We have some of the best, and this is very strategic. So, and this is what you're saying is very intentional. So my, you know, objective behind the group was, I need to find people who have an affinity, one, for the animal, so reverse engineer the attention span of somebody who self-identifies as being interested in the octopus, but also provides content on a daily basis to an audience of people that have this affinity. Mm-hmm. So there were underwater photographers, there were magazines that catered to them, there were certain underwater photographers that had a specialty for photographing cephalopods or octopuses in general. They all needed to be reached out to by me and invited into the group to share. And so those were relationships that I had to make, and that I made on a daily basis when I was starting the community, where I had to sell them on the mission, the vision, what we have in store here, why it would make sense for them to promote their stuff here. And not that many people do that. They're just like, well, it's kind of like, in the old days when, models were like, if I'm not discovered, then I wasn't ever meant to model or something like that. Yeah. Whereas nowadays it's like, no, because you have the tools that you need to find the people who'd be interested in the topic or the subject, you owe it to yourself to go introduce yourself and to find those people who love those things and invite them into your community. Yeah. No matter how obscure it is. So you have to find those people.
It's brilliant. RJ on LinkedIn says, I love your ideas on co-created content. Your audience is interested in hearing from more than just you, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, and this, I have a huge thing about this, and I teach.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Thing is about community leaders that feel responsible for the transformation of 100% of their audience are so ego driven that they really need to just just like it turns into an echo chamber where if you are the person who has to learn Facebook Messenger, you're the person who has to teach them Instagram, you're the person who has to teach them like everything, then what happens is it doesn't make your community, it's like I just said, it turns into an echo chamber, and it turns into all the stories that they're hearing are regurgitation of how you're reframing that information. And a lot of people need to hear stories from people that look like them to make that transformation. And so if you will allow yourself to bring somebody in that maybe teaches the same thing that you do in a different way, but looks like them, then and they make that transformation, it's like that's what it's really about. You can't hold on to you know the transformation of 100% of your community, because it's really important that you bring in more people into your community that are teaching. But a lot of times people get really competitive, or they say, oh, that's so much competition. And I'm like, if there's somebody, if you are genuinely threatened by people that are teaching on the same subject as you, then we really need to work on your community's core values, your mission and your vision. Because if your mission is to teach people this information, no matter what, then you could bring in your biggest competitor into your community to have a conversation about something in their own way. And your community shouldn't jump ship, because they're going to respect the fact that you brought somebody in that has a different way of saying something or a different, you know, whatever. So I'm not ever threatened by, you know, people that teach on the same thing or talk about the same thing. Now, if it's like a product-based business and they're very similar and they have a cheaper product, I mean, then it could get a little crazy. I'm not saying like in every aspect, but I mean, the general principle is you need to be providing, you need to be co-creating as much as possible, because if you really want a big impact, then it doesn't matter about having one conversation. If you're
I always compare it to like the difference between a fan club and a community, right? So a fan club is just you and everybody's like, oh my God, Beyonce, right? And if Beyonce leaves, then there's no more fan club, right? But a community is around the people and the people who are making it. And RJ is saying echo chambers bore people, right? RJ, if you want to join us, this is the link. Hop on in, viralconnectivity.com/live. You can join the conversation in real time because it seems like you're digging it. So, so one of my questions to you, Warren, is you built the biggest community on Instagram, which is fascinating to me because Instagram, in my mind, doesn't make conversation so easy, right? And it doesn't make it so easy to connect with people. I guess you're doing it in DM. So how did you do that? How do you build a real community in Instagram where there's not, it's more images than conversations?
So actually you have to be with Instagram, and the reason I think Instagram is where I have the biggest part of my community, I think we have over 200,000 people that follow us on Instagram, is because when I was in the fashion industry, fashion and Instagram, you know, fashion, fitness, health and beauty were all Instagram centric. Now Instagram has blown up to where it's all encompassing. But I remember back in the day, there was a focus on like food, fitness, fashion, things like that. Whereas nowadays, it's all encompassing. So with Instagram, you have to be really intentional with driving conversations. They don't organically, you can't like write this post about something and then make the assumption that people are going to say something that is just amazing in the comment section. Right. So what I always say in the first 3 lines of text on Instagram, because you know after the first 3 lines of text, you have to hit read more. Right. You can't make the assumption that people are going to hit that button. So what are you doing in that first 3 lines of text to frame what conversation that you want people to have in the comment section? And so a lot of times people miss out on that opportunity. Is you really have to intentionally facilitate conversations that people feel like are approachable, to start the conversations happening in the comment section. Because what we know about algorithms is that they favor engagement, right? And Instagram's algorithm favors engagement that's, you know, more than 4 words. Okay. So if you can get them to say something that is more than a yes or a no question, that's great. So But another thing is utilizing all the features that Instagram gives you. Lots of times people go on and they treat Instagram like a syndication platform in the sense where they post everything that they post everywhere else on Instagram. And they're just like, people should just be okay with that. You really have to create a separate programming for Instagram in the sense where it's a separate community, and it's wired in a different way.
So how would you even start a conversation? So you got like, you got the, so I'm sorry. So is the conversation only happening in the comments with you and people who comment, or do you move to DM, or do you move them to your own website? Like, how do you build that emotional connection with people?
So with any platform, I always say you want to respect the attention where it's at. In the sense where there's tons of people who they have ulterior motives. So I always say when I look at an Instagram post, and I'm like, say I'm doing a social media audit for a business or something like that, and I kind of look at what is the motive or the intention behind this post. If the motive or the overall motive or intention is to drive people off the platform, you've failed. Because you need to keep the attention on the platform, because Instagram has no desire to show your content to somebody who's consistently driving people off platform. Because what does that do to the people that they're trying to monetize off their ad spend or anything
or their
like
attention,
that?
right? Yep.
So it's best to keep your community, like I said, on the platform. If you go to sell anything or you go to have that conversation, it needs to happen in a very organic way. So, and another thing I was going to say is utilizing all of Instagram's features is there's a magnifying glass on Instagram that if you press, you can go, I don't know if you've seen this feature, it's called Instagram Places. And not that many people utilize this feature.
I don't. So I'm on your Instagram right now.
Okay, so if you go to the, I don't know if you can go, if it's available on mobile, but go to the search bar up top and type in, I don't know if you can do this from there. If you type in Monterey Bay.
I'm going to misspell it, but hold on. This one, the 23 posts?
Yeah, so on the desktop version, it won't allow you. And that's another thing with Instagram is it's probably mobile first. They're trying to make it desktop friendly, but it's really for people that that are on mobile. I don't know if I could share my screen, but on my mobile screen. But essentially with Instagram Places is when you tap the magnifying glass, and I'll just show you kind of up here. If you go, if you can see right here, where up top it says Instagram, you toggle over to Places, and you can see right there, my recent searches were Lifetime Fitness, because I was curious as to like what was going on at the Lifetime Fitness right next to where I live, and then Monterey Bay Aquarium. So if I tap Monterey Bay Aquarium right here, it's going to pull up Monterey Bay Aquarium and everybody that is geotagged photos at Monterey Bay Aquarium forever, right? And so if I'm looking for somebody that has an affinity for the animal, where are they going to be at? They're most likely going to be at an aquarium. So I was working with a client who came to me, and he just got his personal training certification, and COVID happened. And he was just like, so what do I do? Like, what could I potentially do? And I was like, you have to farm for clients. You have to find leads. And he was like, well, how do I do that? And I was like, go to Instagram Places, type in all of the gyms that are nearest you. And I was just like, and all of those people that have an affinity for working out and that live locally to you are going to be geotagging photos at their nearest gym. And I was like, so those are all the people that you need to build a connection with. You need to craft content that allows them to believe that you live locally, one, and two, that you're available in the capacity for online personal training or at-home exercises or potentially park meetups with masks on. I don't know, however you want to do it. And so he started reaching out. If you go on Instagram Places and just tapping on people's photos and saying, hey, what's up? They would go back to his platform. They would see that he had all this great advice, and he started finding hyper local people that had an affinity for working out, that lived near him, that could potentially meet up in the future. And so he had already, like, I remember the first day that he did it, he's like, I have about 40 or 50 people that added me that live locally, that love fitness, that work out at all the local gyms next to me. And he was just going to have 2 of them that signed up to work with me one-on-one. So
that's brilliant.
That's how you can use it. Yeah, that's how you can use Instagram in a real way. And another way that you can Instagram Places is if there's an event that you can attend digitally. So if it's like, what's an event that you've gone to like recently?
I don't know. Let's say traffic and conversion.
Traffic and Conversion Summit. So say you go to that hotel, you go to Instagram Places and you type that hotel into the search bar. There's hundreds of marketers that are geotagging that hotel. And so you don't have to necessarily attend. You can go and find those people, and whoever makes sense for your business or whoever you want to have conversations with, you can go, you can find them, you can start engaging with them. It's like an introvert's dream in a sense, because
Right.
you can, the more clear you are in what your profile is and who it's for, the easier it's going to be. So like I worked with a client who she's a migraine strategist. So she helps women who suffer chronic debilitating migraine get more stuff done throughout the day. So when we look at that, what events are happening currently in the world that cater to a woman that suffers chronic debilitating migraine? What organizations are out there? What podcasts are out there? What current influencers are out there? What online resources are available? And how can we co-create and get in front of that audience as a person who's available in that capacity to serve, right?
I love it.
And so I helped her out. And she started, utilizing a lot of these tools and resources. And now she is, she does a podcast called with a Heads Up. It's called Heads Up with the National Headache Foundation. She works with the Association of Migraine Disorders, all because she's very clear with her who she caters to, and what her profile is about, what sort of tools and resources that she provides to women who are suffering chronic debilitating migraine. So you have to, and the title of this presentation was Words That Make Superfans. You have to be so clear with who you provide resources for and who you help, that your superfans hear that and they immediately know how to refer you to their friends and family as being the service provider for those things. So it doesn't matter what you call yourself, or how you use to describe yourself, or what marketplace title fancy marketplace title you give yourself. If somebody cannot confidently manufacture those words out of their mouth at a coffee shop or wherever they need in a real life situation, it's just not going to happen. It's never going to happen. So
this is brilliant stuff. So Paul, you want to jump in?
I'm just sort of swimming in all this stuff that Warren just said. It's awesome. The one thing I did want to ask about, Warren, is I noticed that on your Instagram page, lots more videos than photos. I assume just because it's much more beautiful to watch an octopus move than to look at a static picture of one, right? I mean, like pretty basic stuff. My first thought, I tend to be very literal and linear, is I thought, well, why wouldn't you do great on Instagram, because it's so emphasizes visual, right? And octopuses are so beautiful.
And all of that, and all of that content, like I said, is co-created. So what I realized very early on with Octonation was that there were a lot of amazing underwater videographers and photographers that had no desire to be editorial, people behind their work. What they wanted to do was let other underwater photographers and videographers know the depth at which they were, the lenses that they were using, the exposure settings and things like that. But from a point of education, teaching about the actual thing that they photographed, there was this missing component. So I reached out to a lot of them and I said, do you mind co-creating content in a sense where we utilize, your material and rewrite and educate about the species in which you photographed, and you can use this content too, because oftentimes I can write in a way that spurs engagement, especially on Instagram. And so in the beginning, a lot of these underwater videographers and photographers took the writing that I would write and associate with the work. They would post it on their Instagram account, and it would get 5 to 10 times more engagement than just them saying the capture settings and exposure.
Right.
So I developed this really cool relationship where I was almost teaching a lot of these people and then also providing value in terms of giving them assets to use to make their account bigger and grow their account. So I've almost been kind of like this little micro influencer agency in a sense where I'm educating them, but I'm also providing value. At no point in time do I feel like I'm exploiting them or anything, because a lot of these photographers and videographers, outside of just uploading a piece of their content with something that I've written to them, we've conversed in the background where I've given them advice on how to collaborate with National Geographic, or how to collaborate with larger brands, or how to collaborate, because the name of the game in the fashion industry when I was in it was what's your next campaign, who you collaborating with next that's going to drive more relevancy to the brand, and what's the value to the people, like what is the value, and how are we priming it to where they can share it and they're excited to share it. So you almost have to build in into your content campaigns this idea of, is this shareable, is this viral worthy, is this a comprehensive post, meaning that it's going to serve to strengthen the values of both of our brands together. So there's a lot that goes along with crafting content campaigns. It's not just waking up one day and emotionally thinking like, what do I feel like saying today to my audience? Oh, that's cool. I'm going to say that because I'm going to channel the message through me, and that's what my audience needs to hear today. That's a very short-sighted, ego-driven way to develop a community, because a community should have nothing to do with the person who is. It can, in a sense, if you're an influencer run thing, and at the end of the day, like, people are viewing you for entertainment or your jokes. But if it's truly a community platform, you have this unique two-way dialogue with your community where you're really tapped into their wants, their needs, their desires, who they see themselves as. Yeah, so it's a lot more than just waking up and deciding what you're going to say.
Which is, I love what you're saying. It's like you need a strategy, right? Like, social media is fantastic. Everybody can do it when they just pull up the phone and take a picture of their breakfast. But if you want to make it into something, a movement, a community, a business, there has to be some kind of a strategy behind it. And so what I'm really excited about is that on August 20th, you're going to come on I'm That Geek, and we're going to dive much deeper. We're going to have more time to dive deeper into that. So anyone's watching this and who's going to have like a bunch of questions about how do I, let us know, and we can address them on the next hour-long show of I'm That Geek in August. This is fantastic, Warren. There's so many great ideas here. And what I love most about what you're saying is two things. One, it doesn't matter what you're passionate about, as obscure as it can be, you can still create a movement behind it if it's not about you and it's about the community that you're putting in, right?
On That Geek, well, I'm definitely going to go over the 7 C's of building a fanatical community, because like I said, if you have these 7 C's ingrained into your community, it'll provide, like I said, an opportunity for your community members to feel seen, heard, and you'll see your engagement numbers rise up. You saw in my group, we have hundreds of comments beneath our posts and things like that. That's intentional. There's a strategy behind that. It didn't happen just, chance. There's all strategies that point back to high engagement. So
I'm excited about having you in August. It's going to be fantastic. Thank you so much for jumping in like a last minute kind of thing, because this is exciting, right? And it gives me an idea of how to use Instagram differently. So that's cool.
Big time.
Right?
Yeah.
So
you can
so much.
definitely, it's called prospecting. You can definitely prospect using Instagram. It's not just syndicating where you're just posting stuff. There's a huge strategy that involves you going out there and you finding your members very intentionally. And you can do that using Instagram's features for sure.
Which is fantastic. I never thought about it that way. I was just, it's just an image platform, and like, how do you talk to people? So I'm super excited about our next deep dive show into this, the 7 C's. Everybody can find you on Octonation, right? Any other place?
If they just go to octopusfanclub.com, it'll take them directly to our group, and you can join there. Yep.
Right here, and just join. And it's a public group, so anyone can just join it. And when you do, just, observe and see how Warren is running things, so you can kind of like, by osmosis, capture some of that information if you want to run your own community and your own fan club. So thanks so much. This is fantastic. Really, really appreciate you and your insights, and I'm glad we connected. Paul, what are we doing tomorrow?
That's a great question.
That's a great question. We're going to come out to you with an idea.
We're going to talk about something cool. We'll talk about probably not as cool as Warren was today, but we'll think of
whatever.
We'll be cool tomorrow as well. So join us tomorrow on The Naked Truth, viralconnectivity.com/live, 2 p.m. So Paul, do it with me. Paul, come on.
11, 1, to. I still don't like it. We got to come up with something better.
Well,
I don't like it.
come on, Warren, give us something.
We need
What am I
something.
supposed to get you?
We're doing 11 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern.
I
We're
love
trying
that.
to have a hand movement. Oh,
Gonna
he
do
got
it with
tentacles.
octopus arms.
I like your joke back there. You didn't even read the
I didn't
joke.
even tell the. Well, then I felt bad that I didn't want to anger any of your members. How do you make an
No,
octopus
not gonna
laugh? Give it tentacles.
That's funny. People love that. We got RJ laughing over there.
We'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks so much.